heart, I'd probably seen Robocop like 25 to 30 times, and I started rehearsing my Robocop walk way before I even became an actor. So I was pretty well versed in the Robo walk. But then when I got the suit on, and also sort of the idea that sort of the 1987 vision of where robotics would be is very different from a 2013 vision of where robotics would be and how a robot would move in 15 years in the future. So when I got the suit on, I had some ideas. We went for a more a superhuman approach to his movement pattern. But then we added in some, more robotic movement to it. But that was something that I was playing around with it, and then, José would look at it and, and maybe give me a little note, and then I'd either take that note or work on something else, or mostly I take his notes. But
the suit is hot. That's the only thing. He wants to get in and out quickly.
Yeah. It's a bit of a torture device, but I was so glad that...
Bullshit, I've seen this suit. It's air cooled. I'm the pioneer of bad suits.
There you go. He was giving me a lot of flack. He was like, oh man, you got it easy. You got it easy.
You had a question there in the back?
Oh, I didn't finish your question.
You don't do a lot of remakes, I was just wondering.
Yeah, I do a lot of remakes. Don't I?
No?
I did 3 Star Wars. What are you talking about? They were all remakes.
Prequels. Those are
Old Boy.
prequels.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Old Boy.
And I just did Old Boy, and I did Shaft.
You did a lot. This is your first sci-fi, big sci-fi remake. So what did you think when you first read this?
Well, I was excited by the prospect of a modern day RoboCop. Thinking about it and thinking about the possibilities of what could be done with all the CGI things that can be done now, and the advancements in robotics, number one, and how I read a lot of comic books, so I see a lot of things, and the things that happen in my mind as opposed to what happened on the page, as opposed to what José was going to do. I was very excited by that possibility, and knowing that there are a lot of young people who may be aware of RoboCop, but not really the way we're aware of RoboCop and what all it meant when we saw it. So I'm excited for them to, come into that world.
So totally, the original RoboCop was almost like a black comedy in some parts. How does this?
You mean like Sanford and Son? Not quite. Not that
But it was almost, like a black comedy in parts. And totally, how does this measure up to that? And is there, are there little one-liners in this that we'll be quoting 20 years from now?
I can't tell if you're looking at me. Who are you asking the question?
I'm asking.
So listen, yes, the original RoboCop totally was very ironic and very violent. And it was a critique of fascism, at least the way I've seen it. And, but it was also very smart, and it dealt with some concepts that maybe not everybody caught on to, but they were there. The relationship between fascism and robotics, for instance, it's very clear it's going to become way more important as time goes by. I'll just give you an example. If you think about the war in Vietnam, or even the war in Iraq, right? The war in Vietnam ended because American soldiers were dying, right? Same thing that's happening in Iraq. We got to get out of there, right? Now, if you picture the same war with robots, autonomous robots instead of soldiers, then you don't have the political pressure at home. And so there is a relationship between being able to use robots for war and fascism. And the same issue, the issue is already being posed by the use of drones, by the way. And you open all the major American newspapers nowadays, and you hear opinions pro and against drones, right? So this issue is already in the original RoboCop, and our movie is pretty much about that. That's one part of it, and the other part of it is what it feels like to be a robot as opposed to what it feels like to be a human. And I'll kind of explain to you why. If you look at, say you have a footage of the Hiroshima bomb exploding, and then you play the footage backwards, right? So the bomb goes up into the plane flies backward at the end of this, you're going to end up at Harry Truman's table. And he makes the call to drop the bomb, right? So now we can, because Harry Truman is a man, he has free will, and he can make choices. We can argue about whether he did the right choice or not, right? Same thing goes for a criminal. A criminal shoots someone in the streets, we say this is a man, he knows what he's doing, he's taking someone's lives. We can argue about whether it's right or wrong. Now, once you replace men with autonomous robots, accountability goes out of the window. So say you have a robot, let's say, in the middle of the Amazon forest hunting drug dealers, and the robot is there, and nobody's seeing what it's doing, and it shoots drug dealers and it kills a kid. Whose fault is that? So this is a huge philosophical issue that's going to be present more and more. It's being debated in philosophy already, but it's going to be in the media more and more as robots evolve, and our movie is also about that. Oh, there are some gunfights too, by the way.
Wait. And your favorite line from the original RoboCop is what?
I'll buy that for a dollar.
There's a couple. I love Can You Fly, Bobby? Or I'll buy that for $1.
Oh, okay. Everybody likes that one. I'm sure there's some lines like that in this film. I haven't seen it. And I thoroughly expect my face and Pat Novak to be on all kinds of t-shirts.
Coming off of what you were just talking about, the first film also dealt with a lot of corporate issues, and it's sort of like the middle class erodes, and we see the fight between democracy and capitalism, or the uncomfortable fit between the two, kind of hitting like a higher temperature than it was in '87. I mean, is this something that this film addresses also? Because it feels like the corporations are now stepping into making decisions that the government should be making.
Right. I would actually claim that the corporations are the government, but in any case, we had in the first movie, there was all the satire with the ads, right? The over-the-top corporation ads selling something that was clearly not the case, right? And we do the same satire in our movie, but instead of using ads, we go for the media. So if you remember, recently we got the weapons of mass destruction thing going on, and nobody criticized it, and then the weapons were not there. It was almost anti-patriotic to go against the idea, and all the media went to fall for that, or kind of played with that. And we have that. That's Pat Novak. There he is. So we kept that, and our movie has that element too from the original movie.
Fred, you have a question?
Yes, Joel. To me, RoboCop is a very beautiful story about Alex Murphy. This corporation thinks they own him because they created the parts that brought him back to life, but they can't own Alex Murphy. How do you explore that in this version? And I was just curious if you've ever seen the Canadian TV series of RoboCop after the movies.
I haven't seen that. I love the first movie. I kind of checked out 40 minutes into the second one, and I didn't see the third one, and I missed the TV series. But that's very much that part is very much still in our story, and we go a little further with Alex Murphy. We get to know him a little better than in the. We spend more time with Alex Murphy when he's at work. As a cop, as an undercover cop, and as a family man, he's got a beautiful little family, and then that is very much the question, who is he now a property? Is he owned by Omnicorp? They are the ones that he's very vulnerable because he needs the system needs to be changed and it needs to be plugged in and. So he is dependent on this corporation that has made him to survive, that has made him very powerful, but at the same time very vulnerable. And there's continuous interactions. They let him interact with his family. He gets to reconnect with his family after RoboCop, and that is, of course, something that's not easy to come home and try to embrace your 6-year-old son and your wife when you have just a big robotic body, and you can't really feel them.
Right there in the corner.
Samuel, what's your favorite movie of all time and why?
Who? You?
Yeah, your
Me?
favorite movie of all time and why?
My favorite movie of all time. You mean if I was locked on an island somewhere, what movie could I watch every day? Hard Boiled.
And why?
Just because I like John Woo, I like action, I love Chow Yun-fat, and I think it's a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful movie.
Ronald, you had a question?
Yes, on Street.com. When I heard that the lead squad director would be Holly Williams, I was like, of course, that's a perfect choice. My question is, I loved the movie when I was a kid. It was my favorite R-rated childhood movie. Now, but for two reasons. Will you get to say the famous line, "Your move, creep"? And number two, is there a version of Clarence Boddicker in this movie? I mean, because, because what's
I'm sorry to disappoint you, man. We kept a couple of lines from the original, but we also felt that all these iconic lines from the first one, they were part of that movie and the tone of that movie and Verhoeven's tone. So it wouldn't. I think that would feel like something unjust and disrespectful to just sort of to keep all the lines. So we kept a couple of lines from the original, but "Your move, creep" is not something. That's something that I say to my friends all the time when I play chess on the iPhone, and I'm like, "Make your move, your move, creep." So I practiced that line a lot, but I never got to say it in the movie.
Is there a Clarence Boddicker version here?
Not really, no.
Right there.
Yeah, Abbie, first of all, I mean, I'm sure this is going to be a really interesting performance for you. I mean, to step into RoboCop, but you also just finished a movie with Anthony Hopkins and Colin Farrell. I think you were an FBI agent or a police detective. Can you talk a little bit about that experience too? And
you're bringing that movie in tomorrow. Huh? When it comes to that news conference. Not fair.
I'm going to keep tight. No, I've been really lucky. I sort of, in the last year, worked on 3 great gigs, starting with RoboCop. And it's funny when people ask me about RoboCop and the experience of shooting it, they say, "How was it?" And I say, "It was the easiest film I've ever made." And it was. We have, an incredibly talented director who just helmed this quite classic and political, social story in such a sort of wonderfully deep way. Worked with an incredible cast and worked on a film that is, for me, iconic and very nostalgic. Survived when it came out. My brother had it on VHS, and we ran that VHS until it shredded itself up. And so for me, it has a lot of importance in my life. And in my childhood and stuff. So great cast, great crew, and every day was just easy. Every day was just, and all the actors were just, A-grade, so prepared, and same with the crew, and directed by José. So that was a dream gig, And then did Klondike, and then did Solace, and they were great as well.
I want to talk about a movie we're not here to talk about too.
Next time. Right there in the back of the green.
Right, I think it's the first Brazilian movie they've made. So, listen, shooting a movie is shooting a movie, right? When you get to the set, it doesn't matter if it's a $1 million or $140 million film. It's about the screenplay, it's about the actors, it's about handling the camera the right way, and it was so in RoboCop. We had fun while we were making the movie. We gave ourselves room to improvise. We made up a lot of lines on the spot that just popped up in our heads. And the same way I shot this movie, the same way I shot my movies in Brazil, and I don't know why it would change. Actually, I don't even know how to do it another way. So it wasn't like there is no such thing like oh, it's a gigantic movie. What's going to happen? How I'm going to do it? Oh, you know what I mean? You just go there and shoot a movie.
Except there weren't guys with guns standing there saying, I don't think we do that.
Yeah, I mean, I miss the drug dealers and the corrupt cops around the set. But I guess that's because we shot it in Canada.
That's what I mean by easy.
It's just the mayor smoking crack.
You guys spoke a lot about the larger world of Robocop and why it's relevant today. And Joel, you were talking about how you practice the Robocop walk. But what is one thing about the character that you knew you had to make really cool and that you loved in the original, or something that you had to bring back and you had to bring to a modern
I didn't really think about it like that.
He's connected to the internet now. He has Wi-Fi. Robocop has Wi-Fi.
Yeah,
he actually does.
You had one here.
No, I'm sorry. I didn't think about it like that. I didn't feel that.
Right here in the front.
Was there a particular scene that you worked on that you think you'll always remember for each of you? When people ask you about this movie years ago.
Yeah, I think for me the whole awakening sequence when Alex awakes for the first time and experiences and the disbelief of his new reality, and because in those scenes I was working very close with Gary Oldman and also that whole sequence and getting to see. There's some things I can't spoilers, but I think that there's a string of scenes in 40 minutes into the movie that were very demanding but very rewarding as well.
You had one here, I believe, in the front.
Hi, Michael, this is for you. I'm old enough to have interviewed you for when you were Batman coming out. So very few.
I am Batman, by the way.
My question is, very few people, except for Samuel, get to do these many iconic movies, blockbuster movies. Did you hesitate at all coming into another superhero movie? Was it coming home again in a sense?
You mean this? You mean Robo? No. This was simple. I actually I know very little about RoboCop, the original. I've seen bits and pieces, but So my decision was based on a script that I read that I thought was pretty smart and pretty well written, and at this point I didn't even know who the cast was. So then once I heard about who the cast was, that made it even more appealing. But I become a fan of José's, and one conversation on the phone with him long distance saying, well, I probably don't, I'm not interested in my take on the character, but this is what I think, and he saw it almost exactly the same way. So I thought, yeah, you gotta work with these kind of guys. It was really not a big issue. It was really the film was good, and I've been into work a lot lately, and it was a good gig.
Michael's great in the film. Amazing. He's so interesting. I was lucky enough to do a couple of scenes with him. It was so interesting. Just you played a lot in that role, which was nice to watch.
Thank you.
Melissa, you had a question?
So obviously everybody keeps bringing up the original, but when it comes to this interpretation of RoboCop, this question is for all of you. What do you think is the biggest drawing point for all audiences to go and be like, I really want to see this version of RoboCop?
The trailer. It's always the trailer.
It's a very current theme. My guess is it will be, we've only seen bits and pieces, but it's hugely entertaining. And underlying it is, it's relevant. It'll resonate with people, but not to the degree where your brain will hurt thinking about it going home. It's when there's smart added to fun, even if you don't notice the smart, it ratchets everything up exponentially. It just always makes movies better, even if you don't, you'll have to go home and think about some things occasionally. I was huge early on. I thought Obama made a huge mistake not getting out of Afghanistan when he had the move early on. But I thought, surgically remove people and to surgically remove certain points. That's the way to go win this war. I'm talking about primarily drones, right? Now I don't think that. I think there's a whole other moral issue to that, and that's what's really interesting about this is the moral aspect of this movie. I don't mean to make it sound too serious because it's very fun. It's really fun, but that's the underlying kind of intelligence and how it resonates. It's there without you having to pay much attention to it.
We're not going to put that in the trailer. We want the excitement in the trailer, and then when people get in there, then they'll find out how morally intelligent it is. First, we're going to show them the trailer. And then when people tweet their friends coming out, they're like, damn, this shit is morally intelligent. And it's exciting.
We have time for two more and one right here at the front.
So this question is for both Michael and Samuel. First, I have to say, Michael, you are Batman, hands down.
That's right.
And no doubt about that. So for you two, you guys have done a lot of franchise kind of movies, like, you did Batman and you did Star Wars. So what's the biggest challenge doing that versus doing like smaller movies or working like for you, like with Quinn, something that is its own project?
I think the biggest challenges for franchises are keeping them fresh and exciting. And most times you need a good bad guy, to make that thing continually work. And sometimes, they don't. I've been fortunate. I've been in some really good franchise films, Star Wars and now the Marvel series, and even. But you have to have fresh characters coming in to the familiar that make audiences want to see them and relate to them in that specific way. Because it takes a while to make these things happen. And sometimes the expectations are great. It's like I keep asking the guys at Pixar why we didn't make Incredibles 2, and nobody can tell me. Personally, I think it's because they raised the bar so high. It's like, no, we don't want to make one that's not as good as the first one. But that happens too. You don't live up to the expectations that the first thing presented. A la The Matrix.
Their challenge is the same. I'm not the person who directed them or produced them, so that would be a question if I were that guy. But I go about the work the same way. Small movie, tiny movie, low role, giant role. The work's work. You got to tell the truth and show up and be honest. I mean, I'm just speaking from an actor because I've only been that. That I only did that aspect. Was part of that aspect of it.
But you hope the characters work. I mean, you always hope that particular character is something that makes sense to people.
Yeah, and you have to be realistic also about what you're making. Clearly these things are giant entertainments, so there are certain decisions you make. Either you stay true to the character, you go, yeah, you guys have fun here because this is by and large know who the audience is going to be, and you gotta give them what they want.
And I'm in that audience, so I'm always trying to make a movie I want to go see. For sure.
Even if it's morally irresponsible.
Yep.
Is this movie PG-13 or R? And the gore is such a huge part of the identity of the first one.
Well, I don't get to make the decision, actually. We screened the movie to, what's it called? What?
The MPAA?
Yeah, and they will tell us.
So you weren't shooting with a man?
I mean, we would shooting the movie to be seen by the broadest possible audience, which means PG-13. I mean, this whole idea about Robocop has to be R. Rated because the first Robocop was, amazingly violent and it was R-rated. I never really bought into that. Dark Knight is PG-13, so you can get away with a lot these days with PG-13.
It was R for its time. It's not R now.
Yeah, maybe now it's again.
There's one last one here in the front.
TV show more violent than the
Michael, after being in Batman and knowing that right now with the technology, everything is obsolete from one year to the other.
Yeah.
And so what do you see in this kind of new movie that you're doing that you feel that would have been great to have certain technology for those movies, or that you imagine other kind of possibilities?
Yeah, well, the first, if you know, the very first Batman, and I'm not honestly saying this because it's me, but saying it was Tim and all the people who made it, is an extraordinary accomplishment if you really go back and look at what the challenge was and how what a risk that was to make the leap to make it how he made it. And had there been the technology available, it probably would have been, there were certain things that would have been easier to do, but I don't know if it would have had the same feel. And I've only seen bits and pieces of, I did too, and after that I have seen some pieces, and recently I watched a little bit of the most recent one, I guess, I'm not sure which one it was. Personal, right? Yeah, and the technology is like unbelievable. I mean, it's extraordinary, you know, what you could do in this movie. I think, in my opinion, has a great combination of really cool, new, recent technology, but it's also got a real feel. It's got fun. I don't know if fun is the word, but yeah, fun. It's got a real feel. You can feel it. You know what I mean? Like if there were to be the danger of another. Well, this movie's a lot of fun. I always thought that another thing that made Beetlejuice so great is it looked like some genius kid made it in his basement. And that.
How dope it will be with the new technology, though.
I don't think so.
Oh man, yeah. I say we remake it. Let's see.
So I think, you know, new technology is mind blowing, and you see its best efforts here, I think.
Great. Thank you everyone for coming.
So much.
Thank you.